TG Geeks, episode 65, March 28th, 2016. Am I supposed to say something witty here? Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery. Sci-fi, comics, film, horror, genre, you name it, we talk about it. I'm Keith Lane, and we're coming to you from TG Squared Studios in lovely Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Ben Raggington, also coming to you from, I'm yawning from all the justice, Phoenix, Arizona.
And we have a special interview for you, so let's get right to it. And this week we have a fascinating filmmaker, an independent filmmaker, Sean Malia, and he's joining us today via Skype. And welcome, Sean.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I'm
Our pleasure.
Very happy to be a part of my first podcast. This is definitely something
wow,
new
that's
for
cool.
me.
You're the first. We're the first.
Oh, very much so. Yes.
Oh, cool.
Wow, we are honored.
I've listened to many podcasts. I think I know how they work, but I've not actually been on one. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Oh, God have mercy on your soul that you had to be this. It had to be our show for your first.
Yeah, because we're kind of crazy.
We're nuts.
Anyway, so you have a new film out, and it's called Hank Boyd is Dead. We watched it last night. We'll have a review as a companion piece to this episode that's coming out. So why don't you tell our listeners who you are and a little bit about your film, and then we'll take it from there. How's that?
Sure, sounds good. So again, the name is Sean Malia. Hank Boyd is Dead is my first feature. I've been making films since 2008. I started then with 15-minute short called You Don't Know Me, which is up on my Vimeo page. I think we'll probably give that out later, where things are. And from there, I really had a great time making that movie and set my sights right afterwards on trying to figure out how to pull off a feature. And this was very much a do-it-yourself project. I never went to film school, although ironically I did go to NYU at the same time as a lot of other famous directors that went through that program. But at the time, I was playing music more than anything else.
Really?
And what's that?
Really? I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I grew up playing music. I was in a very musical family. My grandfather was a teacher for 50 plus years. He used to do a lot of the big band stuff as a guitarist. He was the president of the Musicians Union for 40 odd years.
Wow.
And everyone got a guitar when they were a kid.
Oh, cool.
Now I'm even more intrigued.
He's a guitar player, so.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. So, everyone basically around 7, 8 years old, you got a small classical guitar. And for the most part, no one really stuck with it, grandkids or his kids, although my dad did play sax and a couple other instruments. And I picked it up then and grew up playing music and was in bands from middle school on. I was putting things together. And then when it came time to go to college, I decided I would, set my sights on the music business, since that seemed like a logical progression. So that was the first time I didn't do anything in film. Where there was probably good opportunity to. And then I guess the second time was after college, a couple years after college, decided to move out to LA for a couple years with a buddy of mine who was trying to establish residency so he could go to grad school. And I wasn't really tied to anything in New York, and I wanted to try something different. So lived out there for a time, met a bunch of filmmakers just, through parties or what have you, and had zero interest then as well. Just was still playing in bands, and I thought that's what I was going to do creatively. And I guess about 5 years later, I had an idea for a movie, pretty randomly. It wasn't something I was consciously thinking about writing. Years earlier, I tried my hand at short stories. I grew up really loving horror novels and kind of like creepy tales, and Stephen King, early Stephen King, Roald Dahl, his more adult short stories are awesome. Ray Bradbury, some Dean Koontz, things like that. So that was like the extent of the writing that I did. But again, I had this idea that I thought would make a movie, so I researched how to make a script. How do you format it? I think it was right around the time when Final Draft was starting to catch on, so that wasn't very difficult to do. And I wrote the first feature and put it into a contest, and it got to the semifinals of the Chesterfield, which I don't think is around anymore, but once upon a time it was kind of like a Nichols type competition. And after that, I didn't think about it again for a while. And I guess another 5 years went by, and then I had another idea. And then at that point, I really started enjoying the writing and was tackling feature after feature with decidedly mediocre results. And I think it wasn't until I decided to be a director and make a film that I really understood what it meant to write a film and the reasons you do things when you're writing a film, and how, the act structure, how that plays into your pacing, and how all those elements come together to make, hopefully what's going to be a successful story.
Wow.
So anyway, that's the long way to get to Boyd. So after making You Don't Know Me, and we did pretty good. We went through a few festivals and we got the Audience Choice Award at the NYC Downtown Shorts Fest in 2009. And had a really nice review on this now defunct site that I used to really love called Open Film. Did you guys ever check that out? You ever seen that?
No.
Not familiar with that.
No.
Yeah, I think that was the problem. A lot of people weren't. It was a very early, a relatively early site, kind of like a Vimeo for filmmakers, but it was like very serious about indie film and about particularly shorts. And for whatever reason, it didn't find an audience, but it was really well produced. It was a really cool site.
Yeah,
and all my early films were on there at one point. So anyway, so after making the first short, I made a couple others, not really to put into competitions or festivals, but really just to kind of learn more about filmmaking. And then in the meantime, I started writing features again, but with kind of a more limited palette as far as what I was writing for. I had a very good idea about what we could possibly pull off in a short span of time with a very limited budget. And even with that in mind, the first two, once we really started breaking them down, myself and my producing partner, Michael Hogan, who's also Ray in the movie. He's a great actor. He's a really good filmmaker. The first two didn't work. I mean, they're still good scripts, and I hope to make them in the coming years. But it wasn't until I got to Boyd and really boiled it down to, okay, I got to write in a house, no costume changes, no time changes, no real serious special effects or anything that's going to cost the production time and money went out the window. And writing with that restraint, I think I do really well in those circumstances. I love the idea of the one room movie, and it's really kind of a cool thing to explore how you can pull an audience along without taking them in a million different places.
Right.
And it was born out of necessity, but I think it actually made for a better story in the end.
Well, that's really cool. It's amazing how people change their roles, and when they take on another role, it makes them better at something else that they were trying to do. Like directing made you a better screenwriter.
Oh yeah, 100%. And even with that, like I after my first short, I taught myself how to edit.
Oh wow!
Because it was again another aspect of the filmmaking that I didn't really know enough about, and I didn't know how to direct for it. I mean, just, basic coverage, like how to keep in mind what an editor is going to be looking for when they're, piecing together the footage that you provide. So, I'm hoping there's going to be a day where I'd love to collaborate with other people and not be all hands on deck and do the editing as well. I mean, obviously I would participate in it, but knowing what an editor looks at and what they do, I think is only going to help my, future projects.
Absolutely.
The only thing I don't think I'm going to be able to quite pull off is acting. I really don't want to be in front of the camera. But everything else, though, I'm giving a shot.
Yeah, we talked to was Zach last week when we talked about it. He said that he liked to be in front of the camera, but he thought, well, maybe as he ages, he probably wouldn't want to be so much in front of the camera because, he's a little vain. And Ben said, well, you could be like Alfred Hitchcock, and just be somebody
walk in the background.
You
don't have to have a line.
That's the one. And I actually have that in the movie for a split second in the scene towards the end when David gets into it with his neighbor.
Oh,
pulls out the
you were
ladder.
on the street?
The guy across the street. Ducking behind a tree.
Okay, well, now I got to watch it again just so we can spot you.
That's cool.
And I was real happy with that performance. That was perfectly good behind the tree performance. Even though there wasn't a leaf on that lawn. That's how good
I have no idea if there's actually an acting award for that, but I'm sure we could come up with one.
Yeah.
So tell us, how did this story for Hank Boyd is Dead come about? Because we were watching, it was like, what on earth am I watching? It was just, I mean, I liked it a lot, but it seemed like it was just this train wreck that was happening in front of me.
Is that train wreck in a good way? Or?
Oh yeah, oh yes, a train wreck in a good way. It's like you can't stop watching it because you have to see what the next crazy thing that they're going to do is.
Yeah, no, I think that was the whole idea. I love movies. I'm really a big fan of movies where things just kind of pile up and circumstances pile up that forces characters into corners. One of my favorite movies was of this ilk was Sam Raimi's A Simple Plan from I don't remember exactly when it came out. I think it was the late 90s. And if you haven't seen it, it's a great movie that tells the story of two brothers who were very different socially and professionally. One was kind of dim-witted, the other one was solid family man, and they stumble upon millions of dollars in the woods, and it becomes really clear very quickly that this was like ill-gotten money, this was a robbery, this was a kidnapping, this was something, and they conspire to keep that money, and like setting rules amongst themselves, and how those rules are broken, and how that relationship falls apart, and how everything escalates is exactly what I was trying to do with Boyd, although in a very compressed time frame.
Right.
And, the way I looked at it was like, it's like I wanted to make kind of like a Murderous Three's Company episode where, things keep kind of like happening, and then the characters have to adjust and adjust and adjust until the whole thing kind of comes to a climax.
Right. Well, that's kind of the way I looked at it. It was like, it started off, and I have to say that the gal that's the caterer,
the older caterer.
Oh
yeah, Joe Young.
Oh my God, that is my sister-in-law.
Yeah,
yeah.
It was Stacy. It was clear. In fact, at one point, we paused and we looked at each other and went, "Stacy."
I mean, it's just.
It was scary.
It was really scary the way she acts.
She was awesome. We the way that part was written, because I grew up in Jersey, and I know kind of there's like this very I don't want to say typical, but like something that I saw a lot when I was growing up, and it was like these like kind of a thicker Jersey accent, kind of like a kind of a loud, like brash kind of personality, and like dark hair and like very kind of Italian looking. And then Joe came in for the audition, and she wasn't that type at all, but she had like such a great delivery on the lines, and I think she really got this kind of like, it's not obviously a major character in the movie, but I think that she really helps set up the rest of the story, and she does a really good job of delivering a lot of exposition that's sometimes difficult to do, right, and keep it entertaining. So yeah, she was great. We all really
she was very entertaining. It was like, oh my God, I'm listening to my sister-in-law.
Yeah,
and I just saw her about a month ago, so it was
pretty fresh in your mind.
Yeah.
Well, that was how the way the character was written, like that, the complaining and the, swearing under her breath and all those things. I mean, those are things I remember from growing up. So I think that her take on it was a bit of more of a Southern kind of lilt to it, but yeah, it still kind of fit that character very well. Yeah, she did a great job.
Yeah. Well, my sister-in-law lives in Oklahoma, so add an Oklahoma accent to that.
I think it's probably close to that, right?
Yeah, it was pretty close. There was a bit of an accent there.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think Joe's from Texas, so not too far away.
Okay.
One of the things that I was really intrigued with this movie, well, for starters, there's some interesting story themes that are going on here. Obviously, there's the issue of the serial killing, but there's also this thing about, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there seems to be this thing about inbreeding.
Oh yeah, no, that's part of it.
I feel like I was watching the Jeffrey Dahmer story meets Deliverance. I mean, it was just bizarre.
The way I like to talk about it is, kind of like my meets kind of parallel is Texas Chainsaw meets Arrested Development. Some sort of like, kind of sheltered, a bit inbred, but very strange family with a lot of like, passive aggressive tendencies and squabbling, much like most families squabble. Like I thought that was a good way to kind of play it off comedically, and also take the brunt out of the the whole brother sister thing.
Yeah. Well, and it was just I liked the way that everybody played off of everybody else, and then the mother, it's like, oh dear God, I've known people like that.
Yeah, my own mother.
Well,
I'm being a bit harsh, but yeah, that was my mother. I was watching.
Anyway,
I couldn't help but kind of take it. No, I didn't take it personally. I was amused by it. Something else that is a really interesting trademark of this film is the use of old, I guess you call it old family films.
Yeah, that became a big part of putting the film together. Kind of by happenstance, I'll take it back a step further. So, originally the idea started with the one scene that the mother keeps going back to, Beverly, in the film, of watching her kids as their Christmas from when they were like 6-7 years old.
Right.
And that was actually my footage. That was me and my sister and our tree and the whole 9 yards.
Well, that explains where you got it.
So that's where that started from. And then I had the idea of, wouldn't it be great to cut in kind of a backstory with some of this footage, and then quickly realized, well, we don't have that much footage and it really doesn't span all the characters that I need. So I did a little bit of Googling and came across this really amazing resource called the Prillinger Archive as part of the whole Internet Archive project. And basically what it is a collection of PD films, and they run the gamut from like classic 40s and 50s horror films that for whatever reason went into the public domain, to a lot of government films, to like PSA type stuff. And then there's this whole cache of family films, and I don't know where they came from. I don't know why they got donated, but they were. And I spent, I don't know how many, probably over 100 hours total over the last couple of years looking at this footage, and I have like this huge library of it now. And it was like, the idea was I wanted to try and find characters within that footage that fit some of the characters that are not on screen. So I wanted to draw parallels to what the father, the patriarch Harmon Boyd, might have looked at, and he pops up a few times.
Right.
Or like, what some of the characters may have looked at as young people, and like try to like edit it so that those things were kind of sandwiched to a matching cut. And I think if you look at it, you'll see like, kind of parallels, like a little girl's walking up the street and she looks lost. And then we cut to the pan, and not giving too much away, but the pan after the big fall that happens. And then it pans from the woman lying on the floor, and then that's her. And then that's her life like kind of moving away. So I try to do that with that kind of footage. And it was a lot of fun. It was great, actually, to just even see a lot of it.
Yeah.
And some of it was quite striking.
It adds an interesting note to the film. I enjoyed that piece of it a lot, but I vintage film.
Yeah, but
anyway.
Also at times it adds a really good creep factor too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of part of the idea. I mean, I really played around with those quick cuts. Where things would kind of flash at you for a second.
We paused it at one point last night. So I'm like, wait a minute, is this important? Yeah. So we played it back several times, and I managed to pause, and there was just this kid in the snow, with a black outfit on, and because it was a little bit blurry, there was this creepy thing. And because it was very early in the film, I started to think, okay, what are we dealing with here? I mean, where will this film go? So it really caused the mind to just start racing, and it can serve. I think in some ways it's a really good tease, as to where the movie will go, and it can really play with the viewer's mind. I felt, at least it did.
Cool. Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. That was the idea. I wanted to kind of bring in some elements of kind of traditional horror films, while at the same time having fun with the characters and their interplay and their little asides and snide remarks and things like that, to kind of build up to that third act where everything really does kind of switch gears fully, and then you're in it, and then even at the end there's still a bit of a sense of humor to it.
Right.
That was kind of the line we were trying to walk there.
So I noticed that the film is copyrighted in 2014. Has it been? Obviously, you probably copyrighted it before it was ever released. When did it get released? When did it first make its appearance? Did you do the film festival circuit and all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we did. I think that one of the things I learned about this one, the timing of it was terrible. In other words, like, we shot it in June of 2013, and by the time that I got at least a semblance of the score assembled, it was well into 2014, because basically it was like, I'm working full time. A lot of the other people who collaborated have their own day gigs, and then the composer that we work with, this young man named Chase Horseman, lives out in Kansas, and I met him right around the time that the first short was released. He had another film on the old openfilm.com site, and he didn't make the film. He was the composer on it, and the film was good, but the music was really striking, and I reached out to him through Google, which again is just so convenient when you're trying to figure things out nowadays. And it turned out he was a 15-year-old high school kid in Lawrence, Kansas.
Oh my God.
Working with his friends on these like little horror shorts. But I could tell right off the bat, like, this kid was ridiculously talented. And, since then I've been trying to help him through some connections I have within the music business, but he's doing just fine on his own. He's scored a ton of stuff in recent years, and he's still trying to make a go out of it in the Midwest. Although eventually he might, make his way out to LA. But any event, everything was very long distance. So it was like that was the most challenging thing, I think, trying to work with a composer without the opportunity of like spending a week together and like sitting in a room and really going through things. It was more of a very long version of trial and error.
Right.
In order to kind of get the tone down that we were looking for.
Right.
So anyway, to answer your question, by the time that was done, we were well into 2014, and really couldn't do a festival push until late 2014, early 2015. And basically 2015 was when we got placed we premiered at the St. Louis International Film Festival, which was awesome. And that was a really, really well-run festival with a lot of great films. Very impressed with what they put together. We went out to Atlanta, we showed there, and there was some screenings in LA, private screenings in LA and New York. And I guess the copyright on the film itself has been 2014, because that's when the first cut that was exhibited went out.
Right.
But, at this point in 2016, this is what we're gearing up for. We're going to be releasing it, hopefully on a number of platforms. We're still waiting to hear back on a couple of them. But the idea is in late May, early June, it'll be available in the usual places: iTunes, Amazon, Netflix, things along those lines. And we're going to see if we can get some VOD as well.
Well, that's pretty cool.
So how did you end up in contact with Patricia Chica?
Yes. Answer that
so
question.
that was actually through St. Louis. So when we were in St. Louis, I met Chant and his producing partner, whose name escapes me. I want to say John, but in any event, the guys that made Night of the Slasher.
Right.
Yes.
And they were great guys, and they were fun to hang out with. And they shared the tremendous success they've had with their short, and the short deserves all of it. I mean, it's such a great concept and a great execution, and kind of similar in the sense that it pokes fun a bit at the genre, while at the same time pulling off what the genre does best.
Exactly.
Which is kind of like what I was aiming for with the different horror tropes that we explored with Boyd. But anyway, so we hung out with those guys, and they couldn't speak more highly of Patricia, and we got in touch with her earlier this year, and now we've been working with her now for the last month or so, and she's awesome.
Yeah,
she's really good.
She has
you guys
really
know
been.
her well?
We it was kind of a strange
one
turn
of those
events,
very unusual coincidences.
Yeah, that actually has been absolutely fabulous for us. I had released a press release for I Am Alone that Gareth David Lloyd was in and was going to be screening at the Phoenix Comic-Con Fan Fest in December, and I had picked that up right away, and I got an email just a couple of hours after I released that and sent it over to Phoenix Comic-Con, because I released within 5 minutes of when they did their press release, because I knew it was coming, and so I had already made the article. And a couple of hours later, I get an email from Patricia Chica. She's representing this, and do we want to interview the actors and the directors and the this and that and the other? And
I was like, how hard do we have to say yes to any of this?
Exactly. And from that time on, we have just developed a really good relationship with her. And we went out to L.A.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, and we met her for lunch, and had a great time. And we were there to just take a weekend out of town, and also met with Jonathan Latt, who wrote the book The Geek.
That she was also
she's representing him too. So,
and then Zach Noy Taylor, or not
Towers.
Zach Noy Towers,
and met him at lunch and interviewed him last week. So it's been a really good relationship for us too, to be involved with Patricia. She is absolutely wonderful. I mean, she's a wonderful person.
Not only mentioned, but enormously talented as
yeah.
well.
Wow. Have you seen her Serpent's Lullaby?
No, what is that?
Oh my God, it's one of her
haunting.
Shorts. It is incredible.
It's a film that she made?
It's a film that she directed. It is absolutely haunting. And
ask her how you can.
Yeah, ask her. The trailer.
I don't want to give away because it's a secret.
But the trailer is available on her website, and I would recommend anybody to see it.
Yeah,
she's really, really talented. She's an amazing person.
Huh.
So I'm not. When you mentioned that when you showed this in St. Louis, I thought I was pretty suspicious that's where it happened, because I knew that she had been down there.
Yeah, well, we didn't meet her actually there, but again, we met two of her clients. But in any event, I had no idea that she was a filmmaker as well. I just been really impressed with her professionalism, and she's just on the ball. I mean, the music business isn't not that much different than the music business, and you kind of meet different personalities, and you can tell kind of right away whether someone's kind of for real or not. She's definitely is. She's good.
Yeah, she is. So, do you have any films that you're preparing or getting ready to produce or thinking about, or anything you want to share?
Sure. So the two scripts that I wrote prior to Boyd, that I'm still very much interested in making, I think we're going to try and later this year, once we kind of get Boyd out there finally, and just make it available, and we can really start turning our attention to something else. There's a movie I wrote called Welcome to the Johnsons, which is very similar in tone to what Boyd is. So it's again like definitely a dark comedy in the horror realm, and this one's about a very dysfunctional family who recently lost the mother, and the father's been long gone. So the siblings are getting together for Thanksgiving at a remote lake house. Uh-oh. So again, like kind of going back to the well of like, cabin in the woods type thing.
What could go wrong there?
I guess, name them.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so they're getting together to actually over Thanksgiving stage a surprise. Well, I guess they're always surprises, but an intervention on the eldest brother. And what they don't know is that the interventionist is going to make a wrong turn and run into kind of like this stranger drifter. Think of it as like kind of a Niles Crane, Frasier reference type serial killer who's writing a book on first person and obituaries, and decides to take the place of the interventionist, and then shows up and interacts with the family.
Oh my Lord!
And hilarity ensues.
Yeah, it's that kind of movie.
Oh, wow.
The characters are a lot of fun, and again, it's like, I think I realized recently that I tended to write towards the destruction of families in the funniest way possible.
Yeah.
And that's definitely, Boyd's like that, and I think this one's gonna be like that too. The other one that I'd love to produce someday is called I See a Darkness, and it's more of a straight kind of drama thriller, not a lot of comedy, and it's about the whole premise was what would happen if like an established, kind of all-American family man gets a phone call out of the blue one day from a guy he used to live with 15 years prior, and the guy tells him that the building they were in got bought and he needs help moving the body out of the basement.
Oh dear.
And that's the way that movie runs. So it's basically this, told over a week's time period, and it's told through, present time with the main character, who's also named David. I think I kind of gravitate towards that because I love what David Wells can do for me. So everything becomes David. And, he's basically struggling to keep his family together while also very secretly interacting with this old friend who's now like this kind of junkie hustler type living in kind of, what used to be bad Brooklyn and now is very fashionable Brooklyn. And you find out about what happened and what their friendship became and the circumstances surrounding this whole thing as it goes. So two good movies, I think, that are going to be fun to make. And it's just a matter of, trying to do it a little bit bigger this time. And I think that's the other thing we learned a lot about this movie, the steps you take in order to kind of get things not only made, but made aware of. We kind of were very much not in the know as far as like typical filmmaker circles. We didn't really have a lot of connections in that realm going into it, and I think we're learning how that needs to happen earlier and often in order to really kind of cut through a lot of the films that are out there, because there are a lot of films out there.
Oh yeah.
Some of them are quite good, but the festivals are really competitive, and I think a person like Patricia, if we would have known about her prior to doing our festival run, things would have been a lot different. Yeah, because I think she's got a great way of kind of highlighting the good things that she works with, and this is a prime example of that. So
you have mentioned Brooklyn here, and two things. Number one, and you also mentioned in the New York area. You obviously are from that area, but you sound nothing like you are from the New York area.
Yeah, it was funny. My wife and I were talking about that recently. Like, I don't think there's any such thing as an accent anymore. At least around where I live.
Oh, really?
I mean,
okay. I'll give you that.
Like my kids, they're growing up here, and there's not even anyone close to a traditional accent to draw from. And it was the same thing when I was growing up. I mean, I don't think there was like a traditional Jersey accent that I was exposed to consistently that would have kind of influenced my speech patterns. But I think a lot of people used to ask me if I was from California when I was growing up. And I never really understood what that was until meeting people from California and the way they talk. But there's not really much of an accent at least for me.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I grew up in northeastern Oklahoma, so I've worked very hard at trying to get rid of that Oklahoma accent.
Yeah.
It comes out when I talk to family, but
it's funny that way. My wife's Canadian, and she doesn't sound very Canadian. She's been here forever. But when we go, a little bit of that. But when we go back home, though, it comes out. Like, it's more subtle, depending on what part of Canada you're from.
Well, Keith will lapse if we're back in Oklahoma and we're visiting his sister. Yeah, every so often I hear a word eke out, and it just freaks me out.
And when my mother was alive, it was the big word that would come out as with the Oklahoma accent was "mama."
Yeah, mama. Yeah,
yeah.
It always floored me. One thing about this film, now this is going to sound like a really trivial question, but it's something that's just kind of like really eating at me, because I was fascinated by this. Where did you film this? Hank Boyd is Dead.
Yeah, that was my second question about Was it in the Brooklyn area or elsewhere?
No, that was in so that was at my that was the house I grew up in. That was my mother's house.
Oh wow.
In Edison, New Jersey. And yeah, so it was a great location that was very accessible to me. And in a way, it was kind of fun to do it there. She's actually just in the process of relocating after 40-something years.
Wow.
So that house is going to be in the past for her. So this, at the very least, it's a really expensive photo album of what the house looked like. But yeah, that's where I grew up.
There's something really meta about this because now your film could now be like
her tape.
Her tape, her Christmas tape.
Yeah, I guess that's true, right? You could kind of watch it as some sort of nostalgia piece.
Yeah, just I remember this home so well.
Yeah, just gotta skip through a lot of the other.
Just skip through the crazy stuff.
So, but story-wise, where does the story take place? Because I hear references to like Menlo Park. Now, being that I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, when I think Menlo Park, I'm thinking Silicon Valley.
Okay. Well, so Edison is Thomas Edison. So he had a laboratory in Menlo Park, which is a part of Edison. And he invented a number of things there. I think primarily the phonograph, and I think an early film recorder. I don't think he did the light bulb work there. I think that was somewhere else. But in any event, so yeah, Menlo Park was his home base, and that's like Edison's kind of an old township that has a lot of like sections to it that aren't really, strictly defined, but areas within, particularly the side that I grew up on, it's a fairly big suburb. But on the south side, there was Menlo Park, that's kind of the middle, and then there was Piscataway town, which was closer to where I grew up, and then there was a section called Nixon Park, which is actually what the kind of fictional town became. Nixon Park was where my mother grew up. So so Menlo Park exists, and that's where Edison worked.
Okay, because I kept thinking, I kept trying to picture the Menlo Park that I know, and I'm looking at that neighborhood, I'm looking at those houses, and I said, those are East Coast houses. You don't have those in California. It was driving me nuts. So at least you've been able to you've been able to resolve that dilemma in my brain.
Yep.
It was driving me crazy, but okay, cool. Okay. So I just for people to understand you a little bit better, when you're not really heavily involved into filmmaking, what is it that makes you tick? I mean, what are some of the things that you really like to, just have fun with or geek out over? I mean, what makes Sean Malia Sean Malia?
Okay. So, I guess, a lot of it's just kind of normal family life. I mean, I've been married for almost 15 years, actually just over 15 years. I don't know why I just screwed that up. We just did that.
We can edit that out.
Yeah, please edit that out. Yeah, at least 15. My kids are 9. I have 2 9-year-old boys, and they're a lot of fun at this age, and we do a lot of things together, normal kind of family stuff. But, at the same time, we do a lot of creative things together. My wife's an artist. She's incredibly talented at visual art. So she has her studio. I have my office. We play a lot of music still. While I've been kind of waiting on putting together the release of Boyd, I started this kind of side project of putting together recordings that are spliced together. The lyric, I never could sing well. And one of the things I really wish I could do, but I'm terrible at it. But I like the idea of making music. So I started taking some of these old PD films that I was describing earlier, and I find key phrases, and then I form a lyric out of that, and I splice them together. And then I write music underneath it. So a good example of that is actually the end credits of Boyd. That song playing is something that's part of that project.
Oh, cool. Far out.
And that was put together from 3 different PD films. And they were like films of the ilk of like, what do you do when you're dating, or, the evils of pornography, or just like different, like kind of like government funded films from back in the day. Some of them are really like very 1950s. There's another song that I did that was based largely around a video of teaching kids how to duck and cover in the event of a nuclear attack.
Right.
So that kind of charming kind of thing. So that's been a big project for a while. And then I'm always writing something. and I have a lot of little ideas that I've sketched out, even in addition to the screenplays I was talking about earlier. And apart from that, I work in the music business during the day, and I've been doing that for a very long time. And I work with a company called Audium that is very much involved in getting large platforms to work correctly with the music business as far as identification and paying of royalties and things like that. So things I feel really strongly about. Like I love new technology. I love things like Spotify and YouTube and all those things that kind of make our lives incredibly easy. But it's a very big clash of old media versus, new tech. And there's a lot of things that still need to be ironed out. So that's a big thing that I do, for a living.
Oh, that's cool. So you play the guitar still, or?
Yeah, I play guitar, I play drums. I used to play sax once upon a time. I haven't picked one up in a very long time. I think probably my two primary instruments are guitars and drums and a little bit of piano.
So how many guitars do you have?
Not as much as I used to. There was a time before we had kids that I had a lot. I had this idea of I don't know what I was trying to do, start a store or something. But
I think a lot of guitarists like to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I have three main ones now, though. I have an old 65 Jaguar, which is really fun to play. I have a really kind of quirky instrument. It's a Martin, but it's a shallow body electric. They only made 1,800 of these things. They only put them out for a few years in the early 60s. It's called an F50.
I'm familiar with it.
Are you?
Yep.
It's an amazing guitar. Have you ever played one?
No. I would love to try one out sometime, but I've not played one. I've wanted to.
I can't recommend them enough. It's got this unique, it definitely has its own acoustic tone, even unplugged. And then when you plug it in, it sounds like nothing else. I mean, it's kind of like my go-to because you can make it real dirty or you can, make it real clean. And you can even kind of simulate a very acoustic feel to it without actually miking it. It's a great guitar. I mean, I guess it was because of the Martin name. It just didn't fly back then, but it's a cool one. And they have siblings. So there's a 55, which is two pickups. And then I think there was a 65 that had a Bigsby tremolo and the two pickups and the double cutaway and the whole 9 yards. But yeah, those are cool guitars.
Yeah, Steve, one of my favorite bands of all time is Yes. I'm a big prog rock fanatic. And I think he's got the 55. And when he plays, I mean, it's like the friendliest sounding guitar you've ever want to listen to.
Yeah, they're really cool. I'm impressed that you know about them because not many people do. They just didn't catch on. But I stumbled over it, I don't know how long ago, 10 years ago, in a music shop. And at the time it was real cheap. And I was like, oh, this is an amazing instrument. And then the other guitar I have that I play is I have an old Moss-Wright bass that it's funky looking and it's really easy to play. Yeah. Especially if you're not a bass player primarily.
Ben has a number of guitars.
I'm not sure. I got a mandolin, I got a bass, I got a 12, I got 2 6s, and the electric. So what's that? 7, I think. Yeah. I'm not sure anymore.
What's your favorite?
Oh wow, man, that's a tough call because I find that depending on what I'm playing, my entire technique alters. So it's not so much about which one's my favorite, but it's more like what's my favorite for what it is that I want to do.
Okay.
Because I'm also a huge John Denver fan. So okay. I find that when I want to go acoustic, purely acoustic with just those lovely acoustic ornamentations, I find I want to do the 12. If I want to go very prog, or very, with something with more drive, I really love to go to my Dean hollow body electric. It's just got this gorgeous sound to it, and then I got preamps that I can just really make it dirty sounding if I wish. But then I love to do classical music, so obviously I want to pull out my nylon string for that one. So it's not so much as to which one's my favorite. It's more like where's my mood at the time,
right?
And whatever my mood is at that moment, that's my favorite instrument at that point. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I appreciate that. I mean, it's definitely hard to choose. I guess for me, it's like the Martin has been my favorite. Like if I was to be honest with myself, that's the one I would grab first every time. You know what I mean? But Yeah, they all have their place.
They're all really, really, really special.
Well, that's really cool to talk music about because he loves to play music and is a very talented musician.
That's cool. Yeah, no, my kids are just starting to get into it now, and it makes me really happy to watch them do anything musically.
So,
I guess the only thing I got left to ask is if people want to learn more about you, or if they want to learn more about your film Hank Boyd is Dead, where can they go to learn more about that? Is there any social media for these things? Do you have a presence on the intertubes, as I like to call it? How can they learn more about you and more about your film?
Yeah, thank you. It's pretty simple to reach out. So because Hank Boyd is Dead is a pretty unique title, everything is that. So it's Facebook.com/Hank Boyd is Dead. Twitter is @Hank Boyd is Dead. Email is hankboydisdead@gmail. And there's hankboydisdead.com. I also have a website, seanmalia.com. So that's SeanMelia.com. And I think this podcast will be a great excuse to update it in the next 24 hours,
cool.
Which I will do because I've been meaning to do that for a while. But anyway, if anyone wants to check that out, there's links to my old shorts. I also have up there some older scripts if anyone wants to read. I always found that fascinating when I go on other people's sites. I think I learned a lot about writing just from reading. I think that anyone who's serious about trying to write for film should read scripts all day, every day. I mean, it's just a great education on how to structure and especially the movies that you love that work well, that don't have 1,000 authors attached to them. You'll find it in the script. There's reasons why those movies work. So there's going to be material up there if anyone wants to check it out. And we're hoping that people take advantage of. We're doing a bit of a giveaway going into the release of the film. We're creating 100 DVDs with artwork designed by my wife, which is going to be really cool. And they're going to be signed by myself and the cast, and they're going to go out. They'll be numbered, and it'll be a nice little collector's thing. And if this thing, has some legs and sticks around for a number of years, and it's a cool thing to have. And I'm a bit of a collector myself, so I love things like that. So that's what we're going to be giving away. So if you want to sign up for that, all you got to do is follow us on Twitter or like our page on Facebook or shoot us an email, and we'll know how to find you. We'll reach out in May.
Cool. That sounds great. And thank you, Sean Malia, the director and I suppose jack of all trades for Hank Boyd is Dead, for joining us on our podcast.
Thank you guys very much as well. This has been a lot of fun.
Our pleasure, believe me.
Yeah, baby. They're like two gay geeks. They're together, They're two gay guys and they're geeks. Is that okay?
And we have some birthdays here. A few selected birthdays for March 28th through April 3rd, 2016. March 28th, Lady Gaga. Boy, she has really got some incredible lungs there.
Oh, she's an amazing singer. The stuff that she did with Tony Bennett is
God, yes.
breathtakingly beautiful.
Yes, unbelievable. Also on March 28th, Gareth David Lloyd. We've talked to
him. What an incredibly nice guy.
And Ken Howard, who just died.
Just died, too.
Wow, that's amazing. It's amazing how many people this year have died just before their birthday.
Shy of their birthday.
Yeah,
I know. There's something
really
very weird going on here with this year.
Very, very strange. March 29th, Lucy Lawless.
And we're not going to talk about any Xena reboots.
No Xena reboots. We had to, I actually had to unpublish that article that we did. It was, I was afraid it was just a bot that it was every single day we were getting 10 or 12 hits on that article. I just couldn't believe it. Yeah. So I unpublished the article and it went away. Anyway, March 29th, also Eric Idle.
Met him in San Francisco. Also an incredibly nice guy. He was just amazingly friendly.
Yep, and Marina Sirtis. Also, March 29th in 1867, Mr. Cy Young was born. March 30th, Eric Clapton, Robbie Coltrane, Warren Beatty, John Aston, Paul Reiser, and Vincent van Gogh, as well as Take a deep breath on this one.
Yeah.
Francisco Jose de Goya y los Cientres.
Okay, why that one?
It's de Goya.
Okay.
He's the famous painter de Goya. Anyway, March 31st, Christopher Walken, Cesar Chavez, and Shirley Jones. You're not going to say anything about Shirley Jones?
Well, I don't know what else I can say. I mean, okay, so she was Shirley Partridge. Yeah, I was a big
there
Partridge
you go.
Family fan.
There you go. See, that's what I was going for.
I don't know. I thought you picked it because she was in Oklahoma.
No. March 31st, also Colin Farrell, Franz Joseph Haydn, and Rene Descartes.
I think, therefore, I am.
Yeah. You know, Rene Descartes walked into a bar, and the bartender said, have a beer? And he says, I think not, and disappeared.
Poof.
Also,
and, what's funny is how many people don't get that joke.
Yeah. Also, March 31st, a special friend of the show, Miguel Rodriguez of Horrible Imaginings Film Festival in San Diego.
Can you imagine what his birthdays would be like?
Oh, my Lord.
I wouldn't mind being a fly in the wall for those.
Yes. April 1st, Asa Butterfield, Debbie Reynolds, Grace Lee Whitney, Lon Chaney, and David Emil Ruiz. He's a Facebook friend of TG Geeks.
Ah.
I looked over there. April the 2nd, Clark Gregg, Linda Hunt, the housekeeper.
The shutout Mapes.
Yes. Sir Alec Guinness.
Yes.
Buddy Ebsen, and Hans Christian Andersen. April 3rd, Eddie Murphy, Alec Baldwin, Doris Day, who's famous parking places. You know, you got a parking place
right in front
right
of
in front. It's Doris Day Parking.
Doris Day For anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, just see if you can get your hands on the old Doris Day show that ran, I think it was on CBS.
Yep.
She always pulled up right to the front of a store.
Right in the front of the store. It's Doris Day Parking. Also, April 3rd, Marlon Brando, Jane Goodall, David Hyde Pierce, and Virgil Gus Grissom, another astronaut who tragically died in one of the
earliest, as Apollo 2,
yes,
I want to say.
I think so. And that is it for the birthdays this time.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Forget about whether Han shot first. He did. Is it true that Han Solo teamed up with a 6-foot green rabbit? Did Darth Vader profess a devotion to the immortal gods of the Sith? And did Leia's unhealthy attraction to her brother grow for years? Ew. Hi, I'm voice actor Michael Corley, and I want to answer these questions and more on the VoxBox Star Wars Comic Book Podcast. Each VoxBox episode covers classic Star Wars comics, starting with the original Marvel series in 1977 all the way to the present day. So tune in, have some fun, and may the Force be with you at VoxBoxPodcast.com.
Go give a listen to our friends over at VoxBox Star Wars Podcast.
I was in an episode that aired, I believe, 2 weeks ago even.
It was a week ago. Actually, it was a week ago because the day we recorded last week's episode was when it was released. So, and you didn't tell me till too late.
Because I only found out.
Anyway, so go give a listen to them. They have a pretty good show. Everybody knows what that means. That is our listener feedback music.
And sometimes it's kind of moderate, and other times it is a feast. And break out the napkins, boys, because this one is a feast. We have lots of feedback. So starting off, we got a comment from good friend of the show, David Wagner. I love it when he comments. And he decided to comment on episode 63, and he simply writes, FYI, at the end of every episode of your podcast, I still do the quote-unquote evil laugh to myself in honor of your early shows. The good old days.
Yeah, well, we kind of cut that because I didn't know you liked it, David. So
Well, now we have a problem.
Now we have a problem because
David
you like
likes
it and
Crazy Joe does not.
didn't. So
No, because it says it
Oh.
makes us sound evil.
Yeah, maybe we'll add it in the show somewhere.
Yeah, just an occasional Easter egg here and there.
There we
That could
go.
be fun.
Yeah.
And now, regarding episode 64, got a comment from good friend Arkle, Brian Weber, and he writes now. Okay, he wrote FTR. Now, you and I kind of put our heads together. We could not figure out what the heck that meant.
And I'm sure it's something just.
I'm gonna smack myself the moment it's revealed.
Yep.
So anyway, he writes FTR.
For the record.
For the record.
There we go.
Thank you. Oh my God. Wow, you pull that out of your ear.
Well, or someplace else.
Okay, well, not see.
Anyway.
I feel stupid now that I know what it is. Okay, so for the
I
record,
knew we would.
Oh yeah, I like the Phantom movie, the one with Billy Zane. It was a lot of goofy fun. Then he adds, while Joe is right that not every negative reaction to the new Ghostbusters movie and trailer is because of sexism, he also seriously downplays it. Everything from the actresses being harassed on social media for their looks, as if that has anything to do with anything, to being sent threats over appearing at children's hospitals in costume, to Dan Aykroyd getting his own movie mansplained to him when he said he liked the trailer. The misogyny is present. It will be dishonest to say otherwise. To be fair, maybe Crazy Joe just doesn't read all the unmoderated comment sections. That could explain why he's missed most of it. Also, there were plenty of websites, including feminist websites, who were critical of the trailer, or at least the first trailer, as some people may be reading / hearing this after a new one comes out. We Hunted the Mammoth, a website largely dedicated to mocking MRAs, red pillars, and other forms of toxic masculinity, was very critical, in fact, of how low Leslie Jones' character came across in the trailer. In other words, as a stereotypical loud black lady. And it is a valid criticism, though I'm hoping that's just an example of a badly cut trailer. Not exactly unprecedented. I can't even remember how many movies I didn't see until years after they came out because the trailers utterly failed to do their movie justice. And I'm just going to add a little editorial quote here. You're darn right on that. There's a lot of movies that I saw much later because I thought the trailers really irked me to no end. Going back, he says, with all of that said, I agree with Joe completely about the bad marketing of the movie so far, awesome posters aside. But as I've stated before, such as when we were all talking about the Star Trek Beyond trailer, it's pretty rare for a film's director to be involved with the marketing of the film. As many critics, including many feminist critics, FYI, have suggested, Sony needs to replace whoever it is at their marketing division who cut that trailer. And judging from what I've heard about the international version of the trailer that came out later, apparently Sony listened, though I can't confirm that as I've not seen the international trailer yet.
Okay.
Wow, I got nothing to add on that one, except the one thing that Brian is absolutely spot on correct on is the directors really end up having nothing to do with that trailer at all. Justin Lin had nothing to do with the Star Trek Beyond trailer. Even he criticized it. So there it is. Then also regarding episode 64, Chuck Tomasi, who was skiing on holiday, simply said, I'll listen on the slopes today.
And whose birthday is today as we record this
As
episode?
of when we're recording this, it is Chuck's.
Happy birthday, Chuck, again.
Yeah,
Late.
again, since we announced it last week as well.
Yeah.
And all I got to say is, I hope you weren't listening to it while you were skiing. Don't need that.
Don't need any crashes.
No. And then Scott Linder writes, Hi, guys. Yes, it's early. I listen to your podcast as soon as it hits, and I'm in the office on Monday mornings.
Yeah, we had commented that he almost immediately comments after it.
Yeah, he's historically
always the first commenter.
It's either him or Brian.
Yep.
One of the two. And this episode was wonderful, except for hearing the news on the new Ghostbusters reboot. Hearing, if it's true, about the nasty marketing Sony's doing with Ghostbuster fans, I'm livid. Bait and switching fans is not a good way to honor them, especially if you're wanting them to come and see a reboot. Unbelievable! And as far as the new Tarzan movie, sounds like a rehashed hook plot a la Tarzan. Meh. Not even interested in it. And Scott, So right about the bitch and whoops.
The what?
The bitch and swait.
Bitch and swait.
Bitch and swait.
Bait and switch.
Bait and switch. I think you just come up with a new meme. Bitch and swait.
There you go.
Well, I got nothing to add after that now.
We're just going to close the show now.
Yeah, show's over. Bye, people.
Drop the mic.
Yeah. There's an epic mic drop. Now, last week we ran a story about how Doctor Who it had vanished Netflix completely. It was gone. You can barely find it on Hulu. Well, it appears that Amazon is going to be picking up Doctor Who for streaming, and that's going to be happening on March 27th. And, of course, as Keith and I are huge fans of Doctor Who and we're Amazon Prime members, we think this is great news for all the fans.
Absolutely.
We have a story about that. It will be in our show notes. But we have a comment from Alice Harper, good friend, longtime friend. She writes, now, if only Amazon would let me cast to Chromecast.
Interesting.
I wish I could say something about that. Then we got a lovely message from Heather Hill.
Yes.
Member of the family.
She's
your nephew's wife.
Nephew's wife, or as I said in the article,
What do you call her, niece-in-law?
Is she the niece-in-law
Yeah.
or just a niece?
Anyway, it turns out that Heather has been really wanting to kind of explore more Doctor Who. So, yay, Heather. And she writes, this is the best news. Well, I kind of agree with that, especially since it appears that Amazon is going to be like running everything that is available. So I'm really
that's
excited.
good.
I'm excited about myself because hopefully that will include also the formerly missing Doctor Who episodes as well.
Yes.
And then we got a message from good friend Nikki Hunter, and she writes, yet one more reason for me to get my own Prime account instead of having a quote-unquote family membership tacked onto my sister's.
Yes.
Well, this would be a very, very good reason.
It's not that expensive.
No, it's not.
Although it is everything up front is what, $99 or something. So
I know, but once you have it, all you're doing is just paying for what the monthly or just the Prime. I don't know how it bills out.
Well, you pay the $99 per.
It's for a year.
It's for a year.
Okay,
and you get,
but then you can watch everything for a year.
Yep, you get all the Prime viewing. You get free shipping or free 2-day shipping on everything.
And if there is something that is not available for Prime viewing, you can get a discount for it as a rental.
Yep.
So it's very well worth it. And then we also ran an article last week about The Tick, how Patrick Warburton is not going to be starring in it. They did cast somebody, and I'm going to try and pronounce his name correctly. It is Peter Serafinowicz. Now, for anybody who doesn't quite understand or remember who he is, he played a Nova Prime guard named Saul in Guardians of the Galaxy. And sadly, he did not live to see the end of that film. Anyway, it had just been recently announced that he will be playing the Tick. And we will have
the new Tick.
The new Tick. And we will have that story in our show notes. Anyway, we did get some messages for that. And we got something from Craig Stepp of Technorama. And he writes, Pete from Shaun of the Dead? I like him, but not sure it's the Tick. I'll reserve final judgment. He may pull it off. Who knows? But then on the other side of that, we got a good message from Claire O'Leary. And she writes, oh, wow, that's a great choice. He was in Spaced, too, and a series called Look Around You that kind of parodies kids' science programs from the 90s. He had his own sketch show for a while, too. It's on YouTube. Well, I want to kind of see the Look Around You now because I think that could be fun to watch a parody on a science program. That could be a hoot. And then we got what I think is the greatest epic feedback ever from friend Kurt Armbuster. He's been a friend since the Slice of Sci-Fi days. And this is epic, his response. And it is Spoon. Thank you very much.
Be here all week.
Yeah, be here all week. Make sure to try the steak. And then last week, we also shared a press release for Hank Boyd is Dead trailer. And, of course, you just heard the interview with Sean. So we had that press release, and we got a wonderful message from good friend, lovely friend. We adore her, Patricia Chica of Cheek Arts PR.
We love
all things Patricia. And she simply writes, love you guys. kiss, hug, kiss with a nice little heart at the end. She also announced that she is going to be at the Days of the Dead Horror Convention, and she will be screening and speaking at known as the Etheria Film Panel. And the Days of the Dead will be March 24th, and it's going to be in March 24th. Days of the Dead invades Los Angeles, California from April 1st to April 3rd.
There we go.
So there we go. Anyway, we ran that, and she again writes, thank you, my gay geeks, for the continuous support. Kiss, hug, kiss, hug, kiss.
Yeah, and she also did say she wished that we could be there. I just saw that comment. Just came in just before we started
went
recording.
to air.
Yep.
Yeah, I wish we could too, but yeah, unfortunately, to get to LA,
tough one.
yeah, I mean it's not impossible, but these things do require planning.
Yeah, and we have other commitments next weekend as well.
Yeah, sadly. So now for the fun one, and we're going to talk about this. But we saw Thursday night, Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. Wrote a review for it, and you can see that review on our website. The link for that review will be on the show notes. And we got a lot of feedback on this one. First, from Tom Alred Gulbranson. He writes, "Yep, we'll watch this, then wait for the Blu-ray. It's extended by 30 minutes and rated R. I love Lex in Superman Returns. Kevin Spacey played him well." I will agree with that, and I will emphasize, I'll kind of go a little more into detail about that. Then we got a message from Bobby Ches, and he writes, "Thank you. Lex was void of anything that makes Lex. Lex. The namesake of the movies encompasses all of 10 minutes of the movie." Then I got another message from Investigating Detective, and he wrote, "And you couldn't really tell what the hell was going on in the Doomsday fight since he couldn't stop vomiting pink energy everywhere."
Yeah.
Enough said. And then a friend of mine from high school named Don Black, what a joy it was to get a comment from him. He says, "You didn't mention Wonder Woman once in the whole interview." Now, okay, I'll go ahead and just cover that. Yeah, I should have.
I wondered about that too.
Yeah, I should have said something. I should have said something. It just didn't quite fit as I was writing the article. But you're right. I should have said something. And I will simply add that Wonder Woman was easily the best thing in the entire film. There was applause in the theater when she finally showed up in full Wonder Woman garb.
Oh yeah.
It was the greatest moment in the movie. And I'm not saying that because everything else was crap. I'm saying it because it was just really that bloody good. It was awesome to see her.
Yep.
So yeah, I was remiss, but it just didn't fit the flow of the review, so I apologize for that. And then Claire O'Leary read it, and she said, "Going to see it tonight, even with lower expectations than ever." So Claire, you have not posted anything on Facebook now that you have seen it. I'm curious. Did you like it? Did you not? It'd be interested to know. I know that Crazy Joe saw it and he loved it. He said it was a little slow up until a certain particular point in the film, and he said from that moment on, he absolutely loved the movie. It was everything that he wanted. So clearly, the reviews are really all over the board as far as Dawn of Justice goes. So I'd be curious to know what you think, Claire.
Yeah.
Then we got a message from Hicks from the Slice of Sci-Fi days. From Michael Hickerson, and he says, "Haven't seen this one yet, and none of the marketing makes me want to rush out for it." Now, here we're back to the whole marketing can kill a film.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "I wasn't a fan of Man of Steel." Ooh, don't let Summer Brooks hear you say that. She will chase you down because that's her favorite movie. But he says, "Yeah, I wasn't a fan of Man of Steel, and I feel like this movie will be more of the same from Snyder," the director. "I read another review that postulates that Snyder really hates Superman, and the movie he's made reflects it. Only seeing Man of Steel, I can sort of see the point and feel it has some validity." Okay, that's very interesting. If Snyder really did hate Man of Steel, why the heck did he do the first one in the first place? Unless I don't know, unless he was trying to create an anti-Superman film. That's all I can say. I have no idea.
You never know.
Then someone named Colette Williams Draper, first-time commenter, simply writes, "Great review. Thanks for posting. Colette, happy to do so." And we're not done because, if I'm not mistaken, we have some voicemail.
Yeah, we have voicemail from Crazy Joe. There's 2 here. I just ran them together. I mean, left a little bit of space between them, but he left us 2 voicemails. So here's Crazy Joe's voicemails.
Hey guys, it's Crazy Joe, and I just wanted to chime in about the Wachowskis. On one of your most recent shows, you said you hope Hollywood doesn't turn their nose up to the Wachowskis because of their, both of them having recently undergone gender changes. Well, maybe not recently, because the one, was it Lana? Alana? I forget
Lana.
the name. I apologize for
Lana,
that. I just
yeah.
called them the Wachowski siblings. But the first one underwent their change a couple years back, so the one was only recent. But I don't think you need to worry about Hollywood turning their nose up at them based on that. I think you need to worry about Hollywood turning their nose at them because of The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions and Cloud Atlas and the Jupiter Ascending.
But they've redeemed
I think
themselves.
those are the reasons that they're probably going to turn their nose up.
Exactly.
But that's just my 2 cents on the subject. Talk to you later. Love the show. Bye.
And here's
Part
number
2.
2.
Hey guys, Crazy Joe here. I was listening to one of the recent shows. I don't remember which one because I listened to them like all in a row, like 3 shows in a row. So,
Mainlining.
one of the recent shows. You were talking about the reshoots on Star Trek Beyond. I gotta say, I disagree with almost everything you guys said on this particular topic. Number one, the reshoots don't worry me at all.
That's not
I'm
what I was
not
complaining
even
about.
Slightly worried about the reshoots because reshoots are just a part of the process now. Recently, let's look at 2 high-profile cases. There were really high-profile cases recently where Men in Black 3 and World War Z went in for extensive reshoots and rewrites, and they reshot a lot of stuff. And I remember in both instances, reporters and critics and bloggers were predicting doom and gloom, saying these movies are going to be terrible. They had to go in for reshoots. And when the movies opened, number one, they were both huge box office hits. But more importantly, because a piece of crap can make a lot of money, more importantly than being big box office hits, both films, Men in Black 3 and World War Z, got really good critical reviews. So they were well received by critics, and people liked the movies. And I remember some of the critics even said, wow, we thought this was going to be a train wreck because of the reshoots, but it worked out on both movies. So reshoots really don't mean anything.
It's not the reshoots that bother
they're
me.
They're actually there to improve the movie, so I think they're kind of a good thing.
3 weeks before the movie
on top
releases.
Of that,
Wow.
Regarding the Federation High Command,
This is
Ben,
what bothers me.
Don't say reboot because that doesn't cut it. I disagree. I think it completely cuts it.
No.
It's
No.
a new timeline. Everything in this timeline
No.
has changed. And you said you don't believe that would change between the first JJ movie and now. You got to remember the timeline fractured at the time of Kirk's birth.
I do remember
which
that.
was about 30 years before the first movie.
But they never said anything in the second movie.
Any time within that 30-year span, there could have been a change to the leadership of the Federation.
Not on that
It's a
scale.
completely different timeline, so I think trying to apply the rules of the old to the new don't really mesh. Also, we're assuming that what we heard in the press release was correct. It could have been misquoted. Maybe she's the president or something and somebody just wrote the press release wrong. We don't really know. I'm not at all worried about this. The other thing you guys said that I disagreed with was you mentioned how this was probably in reaction to the negative reactions to the trailer.
Well, I
Again,
think
I
it
got to
is.
disagree. I don't see how one could have anything to do with the other because
Well,
the trailer
if they're
only
responding
showed us
to
about
the
a minute
negative
and a half of footage
reactions,
out of a 2-hour movie. So we saw such a minuscule amount of what was in the movie, and the negative reaction wasn't really to the footage we were shown. it was to the manner in which we were shown it. Like, it was all action footage to a retro 80s tune, Sabotage, which it was a tone-deaf trailer. Whoever cut the trailer together really didn't know what the fans were looking for.
Well, I would agree with that, yes.
And Simon Pegg, who wrote the movie, actually even said he didn't like the trailer, and the trailer was not indicative of what the movie was.
Yeah.
And I really don't see how a minute and a half to tell us anything about that movie, especially a minute and a half that had next to no dialogue and told us nothing about the story, nothing about the villain, nothing about what the villain's motivation is. I really know just as little about the movie after seeing the trailer as they did before the trailer, because the trailer really told you nothing. It just showed you some key action scenes, a minute and a half of action scenes out of a 2-hour movie.
So they're trying to lead us to believe that's what the movie
really
is, though.
I don't think we know anything about the movie. I don't think we did before the trailer, and I really don't think we do after the trailer. It was a terrible trailer. That it told us
thank
nothing.
you.
So that's all I got to say. Love the show. Talk to you later. Bye.
Okay.
Thank you, Crazy Joe.
Thank you, and your opinions are always welcome.
Yes.
And you
even though we disagree with you,
we disagree on
a lot of things.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
I mean, but we can all agree to disagree. First off, you're right. Reshoots, not uncommon. That was not my point, though. My point was the fact that they added a new cast member as part of the reshoots. That's what's got not just us, but a lot of people writing articles about what Paramount is doing. Everybody raised eyebrows. That is not normal. Everybody is saying that's not normal, that they would actually add on a new cast member this late in the game. So that was my big concern. It's not that they did a reshoot. You're right. Reshoots are normal. Even all the Hollywood insiders are saying reshoots at this late stage of the game is not entirely out of the ordinary. But adding a new person as part of the story, that is out of the ordinary this late in the day. So that's what's got everybody concerned. Now, as far as that trailer goes, you're right. It's a bad trailer. It's a stinky trailer. But did you listen? Did you see what the social response was? Everywhere on social media, what everybody was saying about the trailer, it was hate, 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 hate. Everybody hated that trailer. Now, again, you're right. Simon Pegg, he got online and he tried to do some damage control. Even Justin Lin did damage control, saying, this is not my trailer, people. This is not what we were trying to put out there. And Simon Pegg has repeatedly said, oh, no, this trailer does not reflect the movie. The movie's got a lot of Star Trek heart to it. That apparently it's, all the things that make Star Trek as wonderful as it is, as wonderful as it was back in its heyday, that all those elements, all those heartbeats are still there. I certainly hope so. But that trailer certainly doesn't represent it. Nonetheless, it's not the director who's calling for reshoots. It's not Simon who's calling for reshoots. It's the studio. They called for reshoots, and I have been maintaining since day one that they have no clue as to what makes Star Trek. To them, it has been nothing more than just a money-making franchise. It has been that way since Star Trek the Motion Picture. All you got to do is listen to some of the old interviews from some of the cast when Star Trek the Motion Picture was being put together, and they will verify that. Paramount, when Star Wars came out in 1977, all they wanted to do was they thought, oh, great, science fiction with space battles and lots of special effects. That's what's hot. People want to see action, wham, bam, shoot 'em up, boom. That's what people want. And, of course, that's sort of why we got that god-awful trailer that was supposed to be attached to Star Wars. Because, again, they thought that this is what Star Wars fans would like. Well, thank you for maligning science fiction fans in general. I'll try not to hold that personally. So when they came time to do Star Trek the Motion Picture, or actually when they were trying to come up with their own Star Wars for Paramount, someone said, we have something called Star Trek. And that's, and Star Trek at that point was bouncing back and forth between the movie division and the TV division. We're going to make a TV series. Oh, no, we're going to make a low-budget movie. Oh, no, let's make a TV miniseries. Oh, wait, there's something called Star Wars. Hey, let's make a big-budget science fiction film called Star Trek the Motion Picture. It will bring back Gene Roddenberry, who gave us what spiritually and emotionally was closer to Star Trek than anything that I think they ever wanted. So, again, Paramount, they simply want something that's going to make them a lot of money. They have no clue what Star Trek really is. They've never understood its spirit. I will say that to my dying day, and that's why they're jumping on Axonar, but that's another story. In any case, it is them who are calling for the reshoots, not Justin Lin and not Simon Pegg. Paramount wants the reshoots because they heard what social media was saying. They heard the fans bitching and moaning about what a bad-looking trailer that was. Paramount went into damage control big time, and that's why they not only called for the reshoots, but thought, okay, well, let's do some rewrite. Ooh, let's throw in a new character here, and then now let's talk about, oh, yes, we now have a new position in the Federation. You're right. The timeline fractured right before Kirk, but I find it hard to believe that they would actually reorganize all of Starfleet or the Federation and create a position called High Command just because so much time has passed between now and then. I mean, there's no reason why they would need to do that. It makes no sense to me. I will accept the fact that maybe it's somebody at Paramount who has absolutely no idea what the heck they're really talking about, and the marketing machine simply gave it a bad title. For all we know, she could be president of the Federation Council, so the article could have been just a misnomer. I hope so. I hope that she is some title that we're all familiar with, like Senior Admiral or President of the Council. I could accept that. But no, just to create a new role called High Command, no, it still doesn't fit, even after a fractured timeline or a split-off timeline from Kirk's birth. I don't believe it. I don't think something on that scale would happen in that short amount of time. And that's only one small example. I could point out a myriad of bad examples where just because the timeline split would not justify a whole bunch of why are they doing this, why are they doing this, why are they doing this. It has never been historically done that way, and just because we have a split-off timeline does not all of a sudden mean that you can do it that way, and I will say that for another time.
Are you done?
I'm done.
You didn't give me a chance to do my sound effect.
Warning! Warning!
To
Blew
say
my
that
ears out.
you were going to have a rant.
I had a rant, yes.
I didn't know you were going to rant.
Well, I didn't know I was going to rant either, but boy, that really pushed my buttons.
Wow.
Sorry, Joe. I mean, but your points are good.
We do want to hear from you, even though we may
Seriously.
pick it apart.
Seriously, we do want to hear from you, and I'm glad you, and Joe, seriously, I'm really happy for that voicemail because it gave us a good discussion point.
Yes. For anybody else, please do let us know what you think. We have our own opinions. We try not to be mean about it, and we hope that you won't be mean when you comment or leave us voicemail. Do go to our website, tggeeks.com. You can look us up on Facebook as TG Squared Studios or TG Geeks Webcast, where you can comment on the episodes and articles, and you can leave a comment on our YouTube episodes, or you can call our listener feedback line like Joe did at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357.
And I do want to add, Joe, thank you for the feedback. Don't take personally anything that I just said. I love it when you leave us messages. I seriously do, because you bring up really great points. And just because I may not share them does not invalidate anything you just said. Your points are worthwhile. So thank you for sending them to us. I'm done.
Okay.
This is Gareth David Lloyd, Yanti from Torchwood, Solus from Dragon Age, and Jacob Fitz from I Am Alone, and you are listening to the Two Gay Geeks.
Do I need to do the warning again?
You might have to.
Are you going to rant on this?
I'll try not to rant.
Okay.
But we just saw Batman versus Superman. Yawn of Justice. Yeah, we saw it Thursday night.
Yeah.
Got a review for it. You can see it on our website. We'll have the link for that on our show notes. But the review is called Batman vs. Superman: Yawn of Justice. So I think you can kind of tell based on that. We didn't think that highly of it.
Yeah, it was just ho hum. I thought the first part was just it bored me to tears. I literally fell asleep.
It's not. We're gonna say that we didn't hate this film.
No, I didn't hate it.
No.
But
This is by no means. This is no Fantastic Four.
The first part was just. It was just too long. It was just too long.
Yeah, I think the film is overly way too long. They tried to cram too much story, possibly. That might have. I think actually there were two stories here that could have been told. Now that I'm really thinking back on this, I think they tried to tell two different stories here. The first part, obviously, based on the title, Batman versus Superman. Now they're calling it Dawn of Justice. I would say that by bringing in Wonder Woman and by getting little glimpses of other heroes here and there, that clearly this is the stepping stone to the Justice League. Yeah. I get that. So calling it Dawn of Justice makes sense to me. But look at the first part of the title, Batman versus Superman. Yeah, and how long did it take for us to get to that?
Somebody commented that was only about 10 minutes of the whole film.
Yes, exactly. We got very little fight between them. And I'm not exactly the biggest fan of pitting two very beloved heroes together, which is why I know that Civil War, Captain America Civil War is coming out soon, and while I will be seeing that, there's a part of me that's going to be dying inside as I see my favorite heroes fight each other. That's not something I enjoy to watch. And I know a lot of people were really excited about this. It's from a comic book. So, okay, I get that. But the build-up took way too long and was very uneven, I thought.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get into that. Now, Crazy Joe posted something which he points on one thing that was very interesting. Now, he says for him, the movie really launched when Superman shows up for the Senate hearing. And in some ways, now that's a really good heartbeat. That's a really good moment of the film. One of the underlying threads, and this is in my review, one of the underlying threads about, Superman just can't catch a break. He's an alien from another planet who, his first big superheroic actions as Superman resulted in massive destruction of Metropolis. But, although the bulk of that destruction was actually not caused by him, it was really caused by Zod. So I think Superman became sort of a scapegoat. And he continues to become a scapegoat to the point where I think the senator says, just because he can do something doesn't mean he should. Yeah,
and we're kind of seeing that in Supergirl as well.
Yeah, we're seeing that in Supergirl. Very interesting timing.
Yeah.
And in fact, the latest Flash episode even talked, or presented this idea that maybe our heroes aren't really heroes at all, and now we're on this crusade to poke holes in them and to find out what's wrong with them. And unfortunately, Batman and Superman kind of do that with each other as well. Turns out they're being manipulated in a really bad way, but we still have this terrible buildup to finally get to this big fight. I mean, it's the movie is a little, just 2 hours and 31 minutes long, and I think we were approaching the 2-hour mark, or we were well past an hour and a half before we finally get the climactic fight.
Yeah, I think,
and that's too long.
As you say, we were at the 2-hour mark, I think, when that happened.
It's way too long.
So they drug the beginning out. But one of the things that everybody has complained about, including you, is the psychotic nature of Lex Luthor.
Ugh.
Now, let me say this. I appreciate Jesse Eisenberg's portrayal of psychotic.
Oh, his ability to play Psycho is excellent.
It's excellent. It just doesn't fit the character.
No, absolutely not.
So any comments about, Jesse Eisenberg and Lex Luthor are not directed at his abilities, but...
No, in fact, Jesse is actually a very, very good actor.
Yeah,
he's a very strong actor, and I would have liked to have seen him play somebody else.
Yeah,
have him be somebody else. who could be psychotic, and I would have accepted it. But to have him as Lex Luthor, who is brilliant. I mean, as I wrote in my article, his genius is his superpower. He never overplays his hand. He plays the odds. He knows when to change sides. I mean, he'll wet his finger and put it up in the air to see which way the wind is blowing, and he will alter direction if it means saving his hide and coming out as much of a victor as possible. We're not getting that here. We're getting a madman who simply wants to put these two guys at odds with each other. I didn't like that. It just makes him unbelievable. Therefore, his machinations become unbelievable. So I have a very difficult time with that. Now, there are some good things here. I thought Ben Affleck did a really good job. In fact, I would say he was probably the best Bruce Wayne / Batman the movie franchises have ever seen. I thought he was really, really good. Problem, though, is Bruce Wayne's being played in a bad way so that he does not come off as incredibly savvy. He doesn't realize that he's really being played for a fool by Lex, and I didn't like that because, again, that short sells Bruce Wayne / Batman as the brilliant superhero that he's supposed to be. So I had a problem with that. Henry Cavill, I thought he did a really good Superman. The tortured soul who's trying to fit in. But these bits were not enough to carry the film for me. I mean, I just found it slow. And I said that maybe they should have made two films. I think one film should have been maybe about Superman, Batman, finally meeting and then having it out. But then have the second film be about Doomsday.
Yeah.
Have that be, I mean, I guess, yeah, you need to have a movie that brings them all together, but at that length. And I kind of wonder, maybe it just didn't fit for me, and it just felt too dragged out. So, yeah, I was not all that happy with it. And I know that you said that you weren't a comic book fan, so you thought that might have been a disadvantage for you. But I was a huge Batman and Superman fan, and even I found it dull. So that's all that I really got to say about it. I mean, I did not go into this film with low expectations either. I came into this with very high expectations because a week before the film came out, there was some advanced press screening, and those reviews were through the roof. It wasn't until just as the movie came out that all of a sudden the fan reviews came out, and they were all over the board. A lot of mixed reviews. That's not to say that the movie is being universally panned, because it's not. There are a number of reviews that have been very positive about the film. It's just not universally loved like, say, Avengers was. I mean, that was a bona fide hit all over the place. In fact, I think this movie got 31% on Rotten Tomatoes, which isn't all that spectacular. So, Anyway, yeah, I was not all that thrilled with it. People, like I said, you could read the review on our website. I would like to know what all of you think. So test it out if you get a chance, and we'll let us know what you think.
Okay, so we want to talk about a few follow-up things that we have going here. You can still support independent film. Pia Thrasher's Indiegogo campaign for her new film, Things We Dig, has been extended. I'm not sure how long she was going to extend that, but yay for Pia. She was the director of The Appointment short film, and we interviewed her in episode 57. So Things We Dig is her new effort, a new film that she's trying to get going. You can go to Indiegogo.com and look up Things We Dig. We will have the link in the show notes for the Indiegogo campaign. Also, Phoenix Comic-Con 2016 continues to announce guests and activities. We get regular press releases from them, and I try to pick up anything that looks interesting and publish it on our website and give you that information. And we look forward to Phoenix Comic-Con 16, and we also look forward to those press releases. Hotel rooms are still available, and memberships are on sale. Please keep checking Phoenix Comic-Con for updates. They also just recently added Phoenix Comic-Con FanFest 16.
It's been moved.
It has been moved, yes. It's been moved to October. It's going to be the 22nd and 23rd in downtown Phoenix at the Convention Center.
I'm wondering if the enormous success of this last FanFest has precipitated this.
Well, yeah, you didn't read my
No,
article.
I didn't get a chance to read it.
Yeah, I just published it this morning. They took a lot of the feedback that they received. It was too close to Christmas for some people.
Was that it?
A lot of different things. The potential for activities outside and rain, as well as the leaking roof, and the fact
that was the first year,
and the fact that the space for any kind of programming was extremely
very limited.
So they've decided to put it back at the convention center and do some good things, but they had to move it to October. Now, granted, that's going to not make everybody happy, but that's the way it is. They'll have more information after the June event. So check out our article. We'll have that link in the show notes.
And want to give a special shout out and thanks to the Doctor Who Fancast Guide. They are it's Doctor Who Talking Who on Twitter, and you can read the Fancast Guide by following them on Twitter at Talking Who. And you heard from Brian Weber earlier today. Arkle, he writes something called the Arkle Times Post Dispatch News, and he shares our stories all the time, and we love him for that. And you can follow him at Twitter. He is Social Justice Scald, and on Twitter at Arkle, A-R-K-L-E, and he has a presence on Tumblr. He has something called the Incorrect Star Trek Voyager Quotes, and it can be naughty. And he's also, I think he's looking for submissions as well. Yeah. So check that out on Tumblr, Incorrect Star Trek Voyager Quotes. We'll have the link for that on our website as well.
Yep, and we want to give a shout out, as always, to the Lookie Show, the twins, Sasha and Dagmar.
We love them.
We love them. They're back active on Twitter now.
Yay.
So, hopefully they worked out their technical difficulties, and they have a show soon. On Twitter, they are at Lookie Show, and you can catch their show on YouTube as if you look up Lookie Show. They review old movies, and they have their 5-minute bites. They have some 1-minute bites, etc. They review old movies, and if you like that and you like campy reviews, this is the show for you. So give them a look.
And lastly, well, actually not lastly, fooled you. We want to give a special shout out to the Facebook group, The Gay Geek, name after my own heart, for allowing us to post our episodes on their page. And the URL is facebook.com/groups/thegaygeek. And their moderator, well, they have several moderators, but their grand poobah, his name is Jeremiah Reeves. He's the one who gave us the permission to actually post our shows there. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I can't say it enough. It's an awesome group. I love checking out the content there.
It is. Thank you, Jeremiah.
Now, this is lastly.
And lastly, we want to talk about the Amazon ads that we have on our site. If you could just give a click on one of those ads every once in a while, it shows Amazon that we get some traffic and we're driving some traffic to them. And, if you want to buy something, you don't have to buy anything. Just click on the articles. But if you do want to buy something, you can use the search ads, and then we get a little bit of a kickback from them. So thank you for understanding. Well, next time, who knows what we're going to have next time?
Because we never do.
We never know. So check in with us. We'll have something interesting for you. And that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out our article for this webcast episode. We'll have several links on the page. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page, our website, tggeeks.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3230. 3357. From TG Squared Studios, I'm Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. I bid you peace.
Cheers.